today we'll start with two-sided matching. And two-sided matching is a problematic topic because a lot of people heard about it and a lot of people didn't. So I want to start just like show of hands how many people are already familiar with the deferred acceptance / Galen-Shapley algorithm. Okay, so I'm counting almost all of you, so I'll be really quick with I didn't know, okay? So I didn't know what to expect here. So I'll try to be really quick with the beginning of this talk. Sorry, with the part of the talk that you do know, and then maybe I'll add some stuff on the board if I have enough time. Okay?
It's never problematic to err on the side of caution and be intelligent.
I will tell everything. I'm just going to skip, not skip. I'll be quick. Okay. 2 days ago, I went in Tel Aviv University theory seminar to give an entire class of two-sided matching in like 10 minutes. So we'll see what we can do here. Okay. I'm not, but I'll be fine. Okay. So our main example here. So the talk is called From Theory to Practice, but it's actually going to be from practice to theory to practice to theory. Okay, or whatever. I mean, lots of moves between practice and theory. That's what we do in market design. And specifically in the field of two-sided matching. So how do you become a clinical therapist in Israel? Okay, what we call a psychologist when you're talking Hebrew. You first do a BA in psychology, maybe with other stuff, but at least a major in psychology, and then you do an MA in psychology, then you do an internship, which takes about 2 to 4 years, and then you do an internship exam, and then you are a certified clinical therapist, and you can start treating people. Okay, so that's what you think your career track would look like when you start it, but then you realize that it really looks something like that, in the sense that there are a lot of people starting their BA in psychology, but there is a very narrow funnel leading to MA in psychology. Not everybody who starts a BA in psychology gets accepted. We have every year about 1,000 applicants that try. About 1,000 applicants that compete to get accepted, to get admitted. 1 second. To get admitted into 300 positions. Yes.
We're talking clinical psychology, right?
We're talking clinical psychology. Now, if you want to add into that also the research psychology tracks, you need to add about 300 applicants and about 250 positions. So that's why I'm saying the funnel is really for the clinical psychology tracks. Okay. There are people not getting into research psychology, but this is the minority. Okay, but the majority of people want to become a clinical therapist, and they do not. In fact, even this 1,000 applicants number is actually a low bound on how many people actually start BA in psychology wanting to become clinical therapists. 1,000 applicants is the number of people that actually apply for MA in psychology, but most of them do not reach the GPA needed in BA to actually apply. Okay, so 1,000 applicants is probably, you should think about maybe 3 times as many potential applicants that just do not even bother to apply by the time they finish their BA. When you have such a narrow funnel, okay, and on the other side, it's also pretty true that there are good candidates and worse candidates for clinical therapy. Okay, you start having competition over which program is going to get which applicant, and which applicant is going to get into which program. And it's a fierce competition, and the first thing that happens in this kind of situation is that every applicant tries to look better by inflating their BA score. Okay, and they inflate their BA grade not necessarily in a lot of ways. The easiest way is just to pick those classes that tend to give higher scores, right? I'm going, when I elect my classes, I elect those that historically gave higher grades. But then also teachers tend to give higher grades, so they'll get students, and also institutions tend to give higher grades, so they'll get people joining for their BAs, okay? Because people also choose their BA institution, so they would have a high grade, so they can get accepted into MA. So that's one of the ways. Another way to have great English is just to have, so I'm not sure how to say it in English actually. How do you say moed bet in English?
Second chance.
Second chance on exams.
Second chance exam. So some institutions, and practically all the institutions in Israel, if you take the first exam and you want to improve your score, you can take the second chance exam, okay? And in psychology, it becomes a bit of a joke, because people take their first chance exam, they get 90 out of 100, okay? Which is a very good grade. In economics, that's the time where people would just, retire and say, I'm not taking any exams anymore in my life. I'm taking this 90 and I'm fine. In psychology, they would take the second chance exam, because if they do not get a 93 GPA eventually, they are not eligible to apply for an MA. Okay, that's how bad the grade inflation went. They found a solution for it quite a few years ago. Okay, maybe 30 years ago already. They just started doing a national exam after your BA. So you finish your BA, then you take a year to study for this national exam, which is supposedly testing what you learned during BA, so statistics and reading comprehension of academic papers and so on. And if you get a good grade, then you can apply using that grade. Okay, it's sort of like the SATs. It's also like the Israeli psychometric exams. It's also highly correlated with the psychometric exam that you take with the national exam that you take to get into BA. So it's very highly correlated, but you do another exam. Okay, the second problem that arises when you have such competition is unraveling. By unraveling, I mean early offers. So what happened is that programs in Israel that were good programs, but maybe not the best programs in clinical psychology, started recruiting students early on. So if they had a good student in their BA, someone that they noticed get good grades, maybe during the second year of their BA, they would come to them and say, maybe you want to already sign up for the MA in our university. Okay, so the Hebrew University used to do that at some point, because Hebrew University is a very fine university. In clinical psychology, it's not the most popular program, maybe also because we're in Jerusalem and not in Tel Aviv and so on, but so the psychology department would approach students halfway through their BA and would already extend offers for MA. Okay, the bad thing about that, there are at least two bad things about that. One is that the departments usually do not know really who is going to be a good clinical psychology program candidate by the time they're doing their second year exams. Okay, those are usually statistics exams. It's not highly indicative of how good they're going to be as a clinical therapist. The second thing is that people are choosing those, taking those offers when really they could maybe later get a better offer. Better offer meaning maybe from a better program or a location that they prefer or whatever. Okay, or maybe they don't want. Maybe a year after they realize that maybe they do not want to go to a clinical psychology program. They want to go to a maybe neuroclinical program, okay? But they already got accepted in a clinical program, and it's difficult to now try to get another position, okay? So unraveling is problematic, but the departments in Israel somehow managed to solve that also. So all the heads of the departments of psychology in Israel met at some point and decided that they're going to coordinate on a uniform admission date. So nobody is allowed to offer admission into their programs before the middle of the third year of undergrad. Okay, the undergrad in Israel is just 3 years. So that sort of solved the early offers problem, but it created a new problem. As always, that's always how markets work. If you try to fix the unraveling, the competition must emerge in a different form. Okay, so the form that it emerges is that departments started giving exploding offers. By exploding offers, this is not an Israeli term. Okay, it's not that we're very militaristic. That's the general term. Exploding offers means that departments would, on the uniform admission date, say it's July 1st, 8 o'clock in the morning, okay? July 1st, 8 o'clock in the morning, people would get phone calls that say, I'm offering you admission, but you have to respond right away. Okay, if we are finishing this phone call and you didn't say that you want this offer, then this offer is void. Okay? And the reason that they do it is because they again want to somehow bypass the competition. Okay, the mediocre departments, the less demanded departments want to try to get the good candidates by offering them a risky, either a risky choice, maybe, so we're the Hebrew University, we're calling someone 8 a.m. Probably this candidate prefers Tel Aviv University, but Tel Aviv University did not call them yet, right? So they have to choose between a risky option of maybe Tel Aviv would call, or taking the Hebrew University for sure right now. Okay, so that's a different way that the competition materializes. Want to ask something?
Small question. Can you just accept the offer and then if you are not interested?
Yeah, I had
That's
a
a good-
brother-in-law who accepted 2 offers in that situation.
So that's a good question. There are a few reasons why sometimes you would not do that. Okay. Sometimes it's because the departments decide among themselves that they would not steal candidates from one another, so they actually ask, did you already accept an offer? Okay, and you can lie about it. And
Also, why is this serialized by making it, requiring it to be on the telephone rather than through an email?
we're talking about 20 years, 30 years ago, okay?
Okay.
But that's the only reason. The other reason is that you are sending an email, you cannot actually enforce the exploding offer. I mean, you can say in 5 minutes if you didn't reply, right? But if you do that, you are not utilizing the fact that you do want to serialize it as a department that wants to make the candidate be in a situation where they have to choose between your risk option and your safe option. You want to make them stressed, right?
Yeah, but relying upon a finite number of people connected to a limited number of phones to get their calls in first is tough.
But it works. I mean, depending what you want, but it works. Yeah.
I see. So
There are places.
Sorry, 1 second. Yes.
There are places in the world where this is considered a form of psychological pressure,
It is,
and
of course.
it's especially problematic that psychology departments do that.
No, so
That's not only
I hope that one of the messages I want to send here is that this is actually not a psychology department's kind of problem. This is always what happens in every market that has this sort of competition, right? But you're right. Yeah.
And you still have unraveling in the PhD admission process, right? I mean,
In which PhD do you think?
I say like this is just my own observation, but I think that like the departments try to make their application deadline earlier and earlier. I mean, you know, some U.S. universities have it now end
Like
of November.
PhD admissions in the
Yeah.
US generally.
Generally everywhere.
So they have this. At least some universities have this gentleman agreement that they would not do that, right? Because there was this unraveling happening in PhD. At some point, they decided that nobody would extend offers that would explode prior to April 15th. That was at least the case when I applied to PhD. But maybe things have changed since then. Yes.
That's in economics.
That's it. Is it?
I don't know, but
I thought it was in.
I've never heard
several-
that in computer science.
Okay.
Maybe.
Did people save the numbers of the departments of psychology from like the different universities and then like strategically not accept the call from like the second preference when they like?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, you see you'll have caller ID and see if you want to answer or not.
From Jerusalem, I'm like, maybe I'm not taking this right now. I wait another half an hour and I'm like, oh, I'm so
Yeah. Okay.
sorry,
So
I
the
have to
issue is that the Hebrew University gives exploding offers. There are 2 reasons why they give exploding offers. One of them is that they want to stress the candidates, right? The other one is that they know that everybody else is doing that, and if they will wait and they will extend an offer that they would not be rejected, they would not be able to offer it to someone else. And if they'll offer it in half an hour, everybody else would already be taken, right? So they also have, there's also this equilibrium where everybody does that. Okay, so strangely, they also managed to solve that problem, sort of, okay? Back, I would say maybe 20 years ago, okay? They managed to solve it by coming up with an elaborate admissions protocol, joined that all the major departments followed, okay? And that's how it went. So they agreed that interviewing would take place until June 30 of every year, okay? And then the first round, which the first week of July, okay? July 1st to July 7th, program extend admission offers, or they tell applicants that they are on a waitlist status, or they reject some of the applicants. Those applicants that are definitely not getting in, they might tell them, you're not getting an offer anytime soon, anytime, okay? Now, each applicant gets a few offers, maybe no offers, maybe one, maybe more, okay? And they're allowed to hold just one of those offers, and all the others they have to call the department and say, the programs, and say, we reject your offer. Okay, so they're allowed to hold one offer, not yet accept it, just hold it.
The universities share the information between themselves.
So supposedly yes. Okay, let's assume that they do. The actual mechanism by which they coordinated is a bit vague. Okay, it was they did know when someone did it sometimes, depending on how things evolved during this protocol. Okay, but not always. Sometimes somebody might have hold two offers and nobody would know until later on. But for now, let's assume that this is the protocol and it is enforced. Okay. Then by July 8th, some of the programs realized they got rejections from some of the applicants, right? So they have spare quota and they can call more applicants. On July 8th, they're allowed to call more applicants. The second round begins, and they're allowed to call more applicants. And you know, they call them and say, there has been a terrible mistake. You are our first choice. Of course, we want you to come. I don't know why we didn't call you the first week. Somebody made an error. Would you please come to our? And they extend admission to those new candidates that up until now they didn't have the quota to extend offers for, or they tell them you are still in the waitlist status, or they reject them. If it's already clear that somebody would not get in, they can tell them they would not get in. Okay? During the second week, the applicants can consider the offers that they got, and eventually they can accept one of those. And now if they accept an offer, this is the final acceptance. Okay, that's it. That's where they're going to study their MA. They also can reject all the offers if they want, hoping to get another offer in the third round. The third round is sort of like an exploding offers round. Everybody can call everybody just to fill the remaining quota. Okay? And they can do whatever they want. They can tell them you have 5 minutes to answer. They can tell them you have 30 minutes. They can tell them you have 2 weeks to answer. We don't care, but give us an answer. Okay? But nobody steals applicants that already accepted an offer before. Okay? So somehow they converge to this protocol, which seems like an improvement, right? Every candidate, when they accept offers, they can get multiple offers and consider which one they want to get the first week, and then more offers the second week. It seems like something good happened here compared to the exploding offers.
But there's no restriction on the applicants as to whom they may apply. So early application for colleges in the United States, you're typically only permitted to apply to one place in the early fall
Right.
session. They didn't use that.
No, they can apply everywhere. They can get interviewed everywhere, but eventually they can only hold one offer. Yeah, it's not the same. I mean, the early applications issue in the US is more of like a signaling mechanism that says I'm interested in that specific program, right? This is an actual attempt to match applicants and programs. So in a semi-centralized way. Okay, let's say. So what are the problems with this protocol, which seems fine?
very stressful for everyone.
It's very stressful. So now instead of 1 hour of stress, you get like 3 weeks worth of stress. That's true. So suppose let's start considering a few scenarios. Okay. Suppose I'm an applicant. Okay. And on the second round, I got an offer from the Hebrew University, which I like, but I prefer Tel Aviv University. In Tel Aviv University, I'm on the wait list status. Okay? What do I do?
Send an email to Tel Aviv that have an offer.
Right. So Israelis take a phone call, but yes.
Yeah,
So I call the department and I say, the Tel Aviv University department, I say, I'm on the wait list. I already have an offer in the Hebrew University. I would like to come to your department, to your program, but tell me a bit about my chances of getting off the wait list in the third round, right? Am I the first on the wait list? Am I the fifth on the wait list? And if they are very nice, they would tell you, you know what, you're the third on the wait list. What do you do there? So here's what most people would do. They would go to the corresponding Facebook group, which is called, Applying to Clinical Psychology, right? And they would ask, did anyone get admitted to Tel Aviv? And they're going to reject the offer during the second round, and I will get off the waiting list, right? Did anybody reject the offer already, or is going to reject it soon, right? So you ask that on the Facebook group, and then what answers do you get?
Everybody wants to go to Hebrew will say that they've rejected
Right, you get a lot of responses saying, I'm going to reject Tel Aviv, but in fact, you get more responses, I'm going to reject Tel Aviv, than Tel Aviv's quota. I saw that, okay? I looked and saw how people asked that and got, 30 responses saying, I'm going to reject Tel Aviv, where the quota was 20, So it's nothing that you can actually count on. What about if you're a department? Okay, you're a program, you're the Hebrew University program. What do you do in the first phase? You have a quota of 20.
A lot of wait lists.
Well, a lot of waitlist, or maybe you even offer more admissions.
Overaccept.
What?
Overaccept.
You overbook, right? You overaccept. You extend more offers than you're willing to eventually accept, and then you cross your fingers, hoping that you'll get enough rejections, right? But you are not. What you don't want to do is to get to the third round and get all the leftovers, right? Leftover applicants. Okay, so you even willing to do some extra offers, knowing that eventually you might call them and say, we made an error and we actually don't have a position for you.
I
Okay.
think what has usually happened is most popular schools play it tighter. The ones sort of in the middle end up with classes larger than expected.
Exactly. Now I didn't say it, but it's very difficult to be with the class larger than expected if you are teaching clinical psychology, because the study program is not coursework only. It's also circles that they sit and discuss their
Seminars.
therapy. No, they're actually doing therapy sessions and they're discussing that and so on. It's very labor intensive in terms of instructor time. So it's difficult to increase the quota, and they don't want to do it. They prefer probably to reject someone at the end than to increase their quota. Okay, so fourth problem, stress and strategic behavior caused by this seemingly nice protocol. What's the solution to that? So usually, that's the point where I hide when teaching it in an economics department, but the solution is a centralized mechanism, right? We want to centralize everything. I have a special authorization to say centralization in the economics department. So here is how it might look. Okay, people would go online. I know it's in Hebrew. Okay, and they would drag some of the options and they would rank them from their top most preferred option to their least preferred option. Okay, and if each applicant is doing that, and if each program is at the same time doing something similar but with applicants and also saying what their quota is, okay, then I can take all this data of this preference data and somehow mash it up together and give a good matching recommendation, who goes where, and hopefully it would stick. Hopefully people would go by my recommendation as a market design, okay? Or the departments would even extend the offers that I'm recommending them to extend.
You're allowed to rank only 5?
No, that's just because
It's just an example.
yeah, it's just an example. You're allowed to rank as many as you want, and some people rank 50 programs. Of course, it's almost meaningless to rank programs where you didn't interview. Nobody interviews in all 50 programs. But if you read the frequently asked questions, well, you know that it doesn't hurt you to list 50 programs. So if you want to do it, go ahead. Okay, so what makes a good matching mechanism now that we have the data? So most of you, raised their hand when I said stuff about deferred acceptance. But let me talk about why we like deferred acceptance. Okay, and let's go into that. So I would actually want to start with the second point. I'm saying it briefly, and then I'll extend a bit about each of those forums. So we want a matching mechanism to be efficient. Efficient in the sense that if someone wants to go to some program, the program has free quota, and they're willing to admit that guy, we want him there, right? We don't want to leave him without unadmitted. If somebody wants to go if I want to go to program A and there is another student who wants to go to program B, and program A likes me and program B likes the other student, it doesn't make sense that I would go to program B and he would go to program A. Okay, so efficient in the sense that no grave errors are being made here. Okay, I'm not even yet I'm not being formal about it. By safety, I mean that it would be safe for me to reveal my true preferences. Okay, it would be easy for me to say that this is really my preference and not do some kind of manipulation in order to try to get a better outcome from the matching mechanism. By customizability, that's a new one, right? You don't see it that often. Customizability, I did it yesterday. I mean that you can adapt the algorithm to many different scenarios, okay, and it's relatively easy to understand and implement. And stability, that's the main property that we care about when we're doing that, and stability means roughly that the matching would stick, okay? That if I say this is going to be the matching, then my recommendation would stick. And what do we need for recommendation to stick? We care about a situation where I would recommend that George would go to Tel Aviv University, okay? But George wants to go to Bar Ilan University. So George, once he gets his placement, he calls Bar Ilan University admissions office and says, I got admitted to Tel Aviv, but I actually want to come to Bar Ilan. Is there any way that you can admit me anyway, despite the fact that I wasn't placed in Bar Ilan? Okay, and a bad answer from the secretary working in the Bar Ilan would be, sure, you can come. That's a very bad answer, right? If the secretary says that, that means that the matching wouldn't stick. Okay. Another bad answer, even worse answer, is the secretary saying, we're actually, no, you can come, and then she would make another phone call and reject someone that got accepted. Okay, that's an even worse outcome. And the best outcome for us is for the secretary to say, we're very flattered and thank you for calling us, but we actually have better candidates already placed in Bar Ilan, and we don't want to add you to our program this year. Okay? So that's stability. Stability is the property that there is no pair of applicant and program that after the fact, after the matching is already posted, they would like to deviate together somehow. Okay? To become a match pair instead of the matching that was assigned to them. It should be also stressed that if I know in advance, suppose I'm Bar Ilan University, and I know in advance that the matching mechanism is not stable, okay, may produce outcomes in which George likes me and I like George, but George doesn't get assigned to me, okay, then I would just hide some of my quota and admit George before the matching mechanism even takes place. Okay, I would call George in advance and say, you are our first choice. If you want to come, we can admit you right away. And I would not publish my quota to the matching mechanism, not the entire quota. Okay, so stability is usually we think about it as something that causes deviations after the matching takes place, but in fact it also is very problematic before the matching takes place. Okay. So let's talk about stability a bit more. I'm not being formal throughout. I try to be as the least formal I can. I know it's an economics and computer science summer school, but still I try to be the least formal I can. So a matching pair of given a matching, a pair of agents is a blocking pair if they can both deviate from their proposed matching and match with one another and be better off. Okay? Their proposed matching might also be that they are actually unmatched. Okay? Or there is a free quota in some program. A matching is called pairwise stable if there are no pairs blocking it. Okay? No, there are no blocking pairs.
Are there cycles longer than 2, like 3?
So we could define group stability in which a group of students and a group of programs might all deviate at the same time, okay? But from the story, you already know that we don't need in our coalition more than one program, okay? And if programs' preferences are nicely behaved, if they don't have any sorts of complementarities between students, then I would also not need more than one student deviating. If there is a deviation, there would be one with just one student. But that's true that I'm here assuming something in the background about the fact that programs' preferences do not include complementarities, okay? Which in fact, in real life, they might, okay?
I was just thinking in that direction because in refereeing of papers, there are problems that involve groups. There are bad behavior that is seen that is disguised because a group does it.
I can imagine that. I mean, again, there are some applications where complementarity is important. And in those cases, really, group deviations would be important, and group stability would be important. In the psychologist market, in the vast majority of programs, in the vast majority of cases, there are no complementarities. There is some sort of complementarity, but it's really so minuscule that I'm dealing with it manually every year. Okay.
In the U.S., there used to be affirmative action, and that created complementarities.
Affirmative action does not necessarily create complementarity, and we'll talk about it later. It depends on what kind of affirmative action you are applying, right? Okay, so our example in two-sided matching, usually when I want to talk about one-to-one matching, okay, so I'm now being as simple as I can by not talking about applicants and programs usually accept multiple applicants, right? Now I'm talking about just one-to-one matching, and the leading example in one-to-one matching is a marriage market. Is a market when we have men and women that want to match together. That's because matching theory was started in the 60s when, every man wanted to match to one woman and every woman wanted to match to one man supposedly. So that was the leading example. So we have 4 men in our example: Adrian, Blaise, Cedric, and Draco. And we have 4 women: Eloise, Fleur, Ginny, and Hermione. It was very difficult to translate yesterday from my Hebrew examples to my English examples. And let me tell you, ChatGPT is no help. So we have 4 men and 4 women. You see A, B, C, D, and E, F, G, H. And here we see the preferences of the men and the women. And the men's preferences are, we can look at the red numbers in the rows. Okay, so for example, Adrian's first choice is Hermione, and second choice is Ginny, and third choice is Eloise, and fourth choice is Fleur. And Fleur, first choice is Adrian, and the second one is Drago, and the third one is Cedric, and the fourth one is Blaise. Okay? So everybody understands how to read it, right?
This is Harry Potter, right?
Yes. Yes, but some of the characters are more obscure because I needed the okay. The Hermione and Draco give it away very well.
That's a bad match, even though that happens.
So let's look at the first matching. Okay, that matching mu1. Adrian with Hermione, Blaise with Ginny, Cedric with Flor, and Draco with Eloise. Okay, is that matching a stable matching by the definition that I just gave you? You have no stable matching, so you should be able to answer.
Adrian and Jenny.
So Adrian and Ginny. Adrian likes Ginny more than he likes Hermione, but
No.
but Ginny does not like. Wait, no, Adrian does not like Ginny more. The red numbers. Adrian likes Ginny less than they like Hermione. Yeah.
They should be stable.
Yeah, it's stable.
Second.
I think they should be
But
stable.
he's,
Because at least one person, every match is one person that got their best outcomes.
That's true, but it's still not the condition for
Oh
stability.
no, right.
no.
Hermione can go with Draco.
Well, clearly
Hermione can go
Hermione
with-
Then they won't.
Draco.
is least
So
excited.
Hermione and Draco. No, so Hermione likes Draco, but Draco does not want Hermione. She's his second choice, and
He got his third choice.
no. So I'm sorry.
Oh, no, the red is.
The red ones is the boys.
Ginny and Cedric can.
Second,
Ginny and Cedric.
Ginny and Cedric. So Ginny does not prefer Cedric to Blaise. She gets her first choice.
Again.
No, Hermione would prefer Blaise.
Good. Hermione prefers Blaise to her to Adrian, okay, and Blaise prefers Hermione to Ginny. Okay, so that's a blocking pair. Okay, so that matching is not stable. Let's fix it a bit. Okay, I change it to mu2, where now Hermione goes with Blaise, and because I had Ginny and Adrian left, so I put them together. Is that stable? So that one is stable. Let me show you. Let's look at the men's preferences. Okay, so Draco gets his first choice, and so does Cedric. Okay. Adrian gets his second choice. He would like to be with Hermione, but Hermione doesn't want to be with him, right? And Blaise gets his third choice. He would like to be with Flor, and Flor doesn't want to be with him, and would like to be with Eloise, and Eloise also doesn't want to be with him. So no man can deviate with any woman, right? No man can deviate, meaning that there are no blocking pairs. Okay, so that is a stable matching. Okay. Here's a third matching, another one, completely different one. Is that one stable?
Yeah.
Yes. Why?
Just all the way.
Yeah, so let's look at the women's preferences. You see, Eloise, Ginny, and Hermione all get their first choice. Okay? So the only one getting her second choice is Flor, and she would like to be with Adrian, but Adrian doesn't like her. Okay? She's his fourth choice. So this one, no woman is part of a blocking pair, meaning that there are no blocking pair. So this one is also a stable match. Okay? And now,
Why
does
is
the
it a proof?
a proof?
You say this is stable matching because women have their first choices.
Right, so if a
But
woman,
this is
if,
not a
so
proof.
Eloise, Ginny, and Hermione are definitely not part of a blocking pair, right? In order to be part of a blocking pair, they need to be able to deviate with someone that they like more than what they currently get under that matching.
Yeah,
but they
men-
get their
men
first
also
choice.
can switch,
Second?
Men also can switch.
Right, but they need a
But
woman
they need
to
the
switch
women
with. We are looking for a blocking pair, right? So we need a man and a woman to be able to deviate together. If no woman wants to deviate, then no man wants to deviate. Then there is no blocking pair, so. Okay? Okay, so does there always exist a stable matching? You probably already know the answer because most of you said that you know the deferred acceptance algorithm and Galois-Shapley algorithm. But let me just remind you, okay, even if it's not the first time that you hear it, that this is not a trivial question. I mean, at least the intuition here is not clear. You can imagine any kind of preferences for the men and for the women, and any number of men and any number of women. And usually when I ask people that question, when I teach stable matching, people kind of split half and half. Some of them think that definitely there should be a stable matching, and some of them think that not. And if I'm doing a good enough job, I can convince maybe even 80% shouldn't be a stable matching always. But the answer, of course, is that there always is. And the reason that I know that is because I have an algorithm that gives me a stable matching. I can construct a stable matching, okay? The algorithm was first formulated in an academic paper by Gell and Shapley in 62, maybe 61, maybe I'm confused here. I think 62. And it's called the deferred acceptance algorithm, okay? Don't read what's here, I'm going to tell you how it works. And also this looks a lot like a computer sciencey kind of description, okay? Here's my description. So every woman has a house with a nice backyard, front yard, okay, with nice front yard. On the first day, I'm telling every man, please go to the front yard of, and enter the front yard of the woman that you like most, okay, that you like most. And then each woman now has either no men in her front yard, or maybe one man, or maybe more than one man, okay? And then I'm telling each woman, you can keep one man camping in your front yard for tomorrow, until tomorrow, but the rest of them you need to send home, send to the street, okay? So some people some men are get sent back to the street, okay? And some men camp in the front yard of some women, okay? The next day, I'm telling those men that are in the street, you should go and try to camp in your second most preferred woman's front yard, okay? And now, again, each woman have several suitors that came to her front yard, and she needs to pick the best suitor, ignoring the question of whether or not that suitor came on the first day and camped there, or on the second day. Okay, just pick the one that you like most and send all the rest of them to the street. And then the third day, I'm telling each man that is not camped in some yard, please go, so now I cannot tell them go to your third most preferred woman, because some of the men might have been rejected only once, okay? Some of them might have been rejected twice, but some of them might have camped the first night and then they were rejected. So I'm telling every man, please go to the front yard of the woman that you most prefer that still hasn't rejected you, okay? That still hasn't sent you away from her yard. And then I asked the women again to only keep their best suitors and send the rest home, and again and again and again and again. I'm doing it until each man either already proposed to all the women, already went to the front yard of all the women that he was interested in and got rejected from all those yards, okay? Or that he's camped in some yard. So if we got to the situation where no more rejections are happening, then I finalize the matching by saying each woman is now matched with the camper in her yard. Okay, and that's my final matching. That's the deferred acceptance algorithm. Is it clear? So let's try to run it. Okay, suppose I'm trying to do it with the example I had before. So Adrian would propose to Hermione, and Blaise would go to Flora's yard, and Cedric also would go to Flora's yard, and Draco would go to Eloise's yard, right? And Eloise has nothing to do because she only gets Draco, and Flora gets two candidates, so she needs to choose between Blaise and Cedric, and she chooses to reject Blaise and keep Cedric camping in her yard, right? And Ginny has nothing to do because she didn't get any suitors in her yard, and Hermione only got Adrien, which she doesn't like a lot, but that's the only person in her yard. She keeps him for now, okay? So Blaise gets rejected. The second day, he goes to Eloise's yard. Okay, now Eloise has to choose between Blaise and Draco. She likes Draco more than she likes Blaise, so she rejects Blaise, and Blaise is getting rejected again. He goes to his third most preferred choice, Hermione. Hermione actually likes Blaise more than she likes Adrien, right? So she rejects Adrien. And Adrien goes to his second choice, which is Ginny. And now, nobody is being rejected anymore, right? Because each woman has exactly one camper in her yard, okay? And that means that the algorithm is done and we are finalizing the match. And we got that matching, which, by the way, we saw before was a stable matching, okay? So lemma, first lemma, DI terminates. It's not going on, it's not continuing forever, okay? Why is it not continuing forever? Because, sorry, I have it right here, okay? So let's do A, B, one of them has their preferences, right? So, for example, I'm not going to write all of it, but Adrian likes H, then G, then H, G, E, F, and B likes something else. Each one of them likes that, and we start the algorithm by each one of them pointing to their first choice. Okay, so suppose we have a pointer to the first choice. Every day, at least one of those arrows goes down by one. So in our case, the first day, Blaze proposed to Flor, and Flor rejected him. So that arrow goes down by one. Okay? Then the second day, it also went down by one. Then the third day, it was, I think, Adrian that went down by one. Okay, so every day, at least one of those arrows goes down, or the algorithm terminates, right? How many times can arrows go down? As many as the number of men times the number of women. So after, if the number of men is m and the number of women is w, after m times w steps, that's it. We cannot lower the arrows anymore. Okay, so the algorithm definitely terminates in finite time, quite quickly. Okay? Second lemma, DA outputs a stable matching. How do I know that? So suppose we look at the final matching that came out of DA, the DA deferred acceptance, okay? And I see that there is some men who would prefer to be matched. So suppose Adrian would prefer to be matched with Flor, okay? What does that mean? That means that at some stage during the algorithm, Adrian proposed to Flor. He went to her front yard, right? And she rejected him from there. Otherwise, he would not get to where he ended up, because eventually he ended up lower on his rank list than Flor. Okay? So if Flor rejected Adrian at some point, maybe she had a better suitor. And as the algorithm progressed, maybe she has even a better suitor than she had when she rejected him, but definitely not someone she prefers less. She only gets better and better suitors throughout the algorithm, right? So if Adrian prefers Flor to his current match, then Flor does not prefer Adrian to her current match. Okay? Meaning that there are no blocking pairs. Meaning that Adrian and Flor are not a blocking pair, and since Adrian and Flor are just names that they came up with, it means that no men and women are a blocking pair, because if there were, it means that the man already proposed to that woman and she rejected him, and that's a contradiction. Okay? So no blocking pairs, meaning the DA outputs a stable matching. Of course, the same way that we ran the men proposing deferred acceptance, the one in which men propose to the women, we can also run the women proposing deferred acceptance. Okay? The one in which, instead of the women having front yards, the men have front yards. Okay? And the women are the one coming and proposing. So if we tried in that market, then Eloise would go to Adrian, and so would Flor, and Gilly would go to Blaze, and Hermine would go to Cedric, and the only one that needs to choose something is Adrian. Adrian chooses Eloise over Flor, and Flor proposes to Draco, and that's it, right? We're done, and we got our second stable matching, the one that we had in green before, okay? So if we run the deferred acceptance algorithm with men proposing, we get one stable matching. If we run it from the women's side, we get maybe a different one, okay? Maybe another stable matching. But are those the only two stable matching? Not necessarily, right? So, for example, here is another stable matching, which is neither one of the previous ones, okay? You can check that it's actually stable. It's not very interesting, so I'm not going to go through that. But the deferred acceptance algorithm gives us an option to find one or two. I'm saying one or two because sometimes I would run deferred acceptance with men proposing and with women proposing, and I would get the same matching, okay? But we get one or two stable matchings, but maybe not all of them. Now, let's look at who prefers which stable matching. the one that we get from the men proposing deferred acceptance and the one we get from the women proposing deferred acceptance. So if we compare the yellow matching that we got from the men proposing deferred acceptance with the green matching, we can easily see that the men all prefer the yellow matching to the green matching. You see that? 2 and not 3, 3 and not 4, 1 and not 4, 1 not 4. So the men all prefer the yellow matching. And the women all prefer the green matching, and that's not an that's not by chance. That happened because not going to prove. The man proposing deferred acceptance output the stable matching most preferred by men among all stable matchings. So if you look at the set of all the possible stable matchings, the one that we get to from using the men proposing deferred acceptance is the one that all men prefer to all other stable matchings. Okay? I said I'm not going to prove it, but I'm going to give an intuition, because intuition is easy. The men start with their most preferred option, right? They are very optimistic. They are starting with what they aspire to get. They only get down if they step on one another's toes, right? If they compete on the same woman, then they are going down by just a bit to their second most preferred option. Okay? But otherwise, they're always the most optimistic that they can be. So among all stable matchings, that's the one that gives the highest rank of partners for the men. Okay, that's the intuition. Surprisingly, there is another thing that you can see here, and that's not only do the men like the yellow more than the green, but also that's almost saying the same thing. But also the man likes the green less than the yellow. Okay, so it's true that the men like the yellow more than the green, but they also like the green less than the yellow, and that's also not by chance. That's because the men proposing deferred acceptance outputs the stable matching least preferred by the women, and the women proposing deferred acceptance outputs the stable matching least preferred by the men. Okay, so they have contradicting what do I say? Preferences. Okay, contradicting preferences over the set of stable matches. Okay. Now, why is that true? It's not immediately true because of that. Okay, it's not a corollary. Again, I'm not going to prove it, but intuition. Okay. So when the women participate in a men proposing deferred acceptance, what do they get? They get random offers getting thrown at them from men that come to their front yards. They do not choose, they have no say in who comes to their front yard. Whoever comes, they can choose from that, but they do not influence at all the kind of offers that they get, okay? And that's in some sense the least that they can get because they cannot do anything other than choose between those things that they have to choose from. Yes?
I think that the intuition says in this case that from the accepting side, there would be the stable matching would be somewhere in the middle, but not the worst.
Yeah,
You cannot get worse than random. Getting worse than so it's not random, but you cannot get worse than something that you do not affect. Getting worse than something that you do not affect means that you affect it in the other direction. But that's certainly not what's happening here, right? No influence is the least influence you can have. You cannot have negative influence. Okay? Negative influence means that your preferences are being taken into account, and you get those proposals those men that you do not want. But that's not what's happening here. I agree that you might imagine a stable matching that acts like that, but it contradicts the definition of stability. Again, it's not a full proof. Okay, it's just my intuition, and you can say that you don't accept it. That's fine. Okay, so we talked a lot about stability. I want to just give you where do I see the clock here? Oh, there it is. And I have until
11.
okay, good. So efficiency, I would say quickly. So suppose we denote by mu m what comes out of the men proposing deferred acceptance. Okay, it's clear that you cannot Pareto improve over mu m. We cannot make all the agents better off, or at least we cannot make all the agents weakly better off and some of them strictly better off. Because if we make some of them strictly better off, that means that there is a man and a woman that get strictly better off by matching together, meaning that there was a blocking pair because they could deviate from mu n. Okay, so it's obvious that we cannot Pareto improve, but we can also prove that there is no individually rational matching, not a stable matching, just an individually rational one in which all the men get something better than mu m. Okay? If you want to get something better than what you get out of the deferred acceptance, some woman is going to get some men that she is not even willing to accept. Okay? You cannot do better than that. Okay. Safety. That's an interesting one. So how should people feel when they are participating in a matching mechanism that employs the deferred acceptance algorithm? Okay, should they reveal their true preferences over programs or not? So let's look at an example in which we are using the men proposing deferred acceptance again. Okay, similar participants also added Daphne here. Okay, 3 by 3. What happens if we use the true preferences of everyone that are described here? Adrian and Blaze propose to Flor, and Flor needs to choose between them, and she chooses to reject Blaze, and Blaze proposes to Daphne, and that's it. Okay, that's what we get in this 3 by 3 example. Okay, but what happens if Flor decides that instead of reporting her true preference of preferring Cedric to Adrian to Blaze, instead of that she says that she prefers Cedric to Blaze to Adrian. Okay, she flips her preference between Adrian and Blaze. Okay, and reports a fake preference, one that she doesn't really have. Okay, in that case, if we run the deferred acceptance again using the misrepresented preference, now in the first step, instead of rejecting Blaze as before, Flor would reject Adrian. Okay, and then Adrian would propose to Eloise, and then Eloise would reject Cedric. Cedric would propose to Flor. Flor would reject Blaze. Blaze would propose to Daphne, and we're done. Okay, and we got a new stable matching. And note that according to Flor true preferences, okay, she now gets a match that she prefers to the match she had before. Before she got Adrian, now she gets Cedric, which is her first choice. Okay? So by misrepresenting her preferences, Flor was able to manipulate what happens during the deferred acceptance algorithm, the men proposing deferred acceptance algorithm, right? And get a better outcome. So that's kind of a problem. That means that the deferred acceptance algorithm is not safe. It means that Flor does not have a good incentive to provide her true preference, right?
But it's conditional. Flor knows the algorithm.
Yeah.
I just think she can't.
Yeah, that's if she knows it. Yeah, I'm going to go back to that in a second. Okay? But theorem, when using the men optimal stable mechanism, meaning we're running the men proposing deferred acceptance and whatever we get out of that, that's our matching. Okay, so when we're using the men optimal stable mechanism, it is a weakly dominant strategy for the men to state their true preference. Okay, so that theorem turns out to be slightly more difficult to prove than you'd expect. Okay, because it sounds reasonable. Okay, I mean here is an easy intuition for that, which is not valid. Okay, but it is an intuition. Suppose that I could be, I'm a student that registered for either the Hebrew University or Tel Aviv University. Okay. Now, if I get accepted at both of those, I should say my true preference. If I get accepted in none of those, then it doesn't matter what I say. If I get accepted only at the Hebrew University, then it doesn't matter what I say, right? And if I get accepted only at Tel Aviv University, it doesn't matter what I say. So the only case where it actually matters what my reported preference is here seems to be the case where I got accepted at both of them. Okay? And that sounds like a good intuition for strategy proof. It's not actually a valid intuition, although it really kind of fits the intuition from a new paper by Yanai, who was presenting here the first day, maybe, and Ori Hefetz and Thomas and Clay Thomas. The real proof for that used to take like an hour and a half. Now I can prove it in I think 20 minutes, but still it's 20 minutes that I don't have, so I'm skipping that. Okay. Another theorem: there exists no stable mechanism for which truthful revelation of the preferences is a weakly dominant strategy for all the players, both the men and the men and the women. Okay, so you cannot find a better stable mechanism, one in which everybody would have a dominant strategy to reveal their true preference. That's actually an easy theorem to prove, but again, I'm not going to prove it. And coming it back to what you said before, when we look at what Flor had to do, she really had to know quite a lot in order to be able to manipulate that algorithm, right? She had to know that if she would reject Edwin instead of Blaise, okay, then Edwin would propose to Eloise and not to Daphne, because if he would propose to Daphne, then the algorithm would be done and she would get stuck with Blaise. Then she needs to know that once Edwin proposes to Eloise, Eloise prefers Edwin to Cedric, because if she doesn't, then Edwin would go to Daphne, and again she would get stuck with Blaise. And she needs to know that once Cedric is rejected, he would go to her and not to Daphne, because again, then she would get stuck with Blaise. So she needed to know a lot about Edwin, about Eloise, and about Cedric in order to profitably deviate. This is similar to a case where somebody doing the deferred acceptance algorithm proposes to Bar-Ilan University, and what Bar-Ilan University kind of considers is that if they would reject that person would go to Tel Aviv University. Tel Aviv University would like that person, and they would eject their least preferred applicant currently in their front yard, and that applicant would like Bar-Ilan University, and that specific applicant is someone that Bar-Ilan prefers to the first applicant that they got. Okay, that's a lot of things to know in order to manipulate, and indeed there are some works, more modern papers suggesting that it is very difficult. In many different ways they suggest that it's difficult to manipulate the deferred acceptance algorithm, even if you are not on the proposing side, but on the proposed to side. Okay? Okay, so now question is, yes?
In intuition, you might have for the university case, is that most universities will rank the students more or less the same, right? You have the grade, which is a metric, maybe you have an interview, someone has a slightly better or slightly worse interview. Is there a result if the orderings are similar enough, then you can, then it is decent?
Yeah, of course. If everybody agrees on the order of students, then there's just one stable matching. And well, I mean, that's not a proof that you cannot manipulate, but first of all, there's just one stable matching, right? Because then the students kind of pick which university they want to go to. The top student picks the university they want to go to, and then the second one, the third one, okay? And there is a strong connection between the set of stable matchings and the ability to manipulate, okay? Why is that? Because, so this is going to be only a partial argument, okay? But hopefully giving you intuition. Suppose that you consider a case where everybody manipulates optimally, okay? That we consider a Nash equilibrium of manipulations, okay? A Nash equilibrium of manipulation must produce a pure strategy Nash equilibrium of manipulation must produce a stable outcome. If it does not, then people could deviate from that Nash equilibrium. Okay, you need to think about it for a bit. Now, if with optimal manipulation you can only get a stable outcome, and there is only a single stable outcome because everybody ranks all the students the same, then you cannot profitably manipulate. Okay, this is only a partial argument. Okay, but it gives you the flavor of why you're correct, and that correlation in preferences, at least along the same side, would give you that kind of non-manipulability property. Okay? Yeah.
Question about practical applications.
Yes.
So practice the people will report on something.
Oh, good. So 11, right? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good. I have time for that. No. And but it's difficult to know to show that, right? How would they know? Looking at preference data, how would they know that somebody does not report truthfully? so people did several things to try to answer that question of whether people are actually reporting the true preferences or not, given that they are on the proposing side and they have a truthful dominant strategy. One thing that people do is just ask people, did you report your truth strategy after the fact? Surveys. We don't trust surveys as economists, but maybe you as computer scientists, I don't know who you are, but we don't trust surveys. And we don't trust surveys because people don't understand surveys and they're not incentivized. So people, there is a famous paper by Alex Rhys-Jones that went to people who went through the National Residency Matching Program in the US, which is sort of a deferred acceptance kind of thing. And they asked the doctors after the fact, did you report your true preferences? A lot of people say, no, we did not. And then the follow-up question was, why not? I reported my wife's true preferences. So it's difficult to look at surveys and understand what you really get out of them. So that's one way the people want. Yeah, but
perhaps you can mix in here, and it's just a suggestion, something from prediction. There is a topic, prediction markets, and from risk management, like statistically, where people aware tend to prefer what?
yeah, you can do some kind of statistical model that would kind of imply that maybe people do not misrepresent their preferences. It will not be conclusive, but you can do something like that. At some point, I looked at the psychology market, and there are two institutions that are very similar and offer very similar programs. One is Tel Aviv University, the other one is the Academic College of Jaffa in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv, Jaffa, I'm not sure. And both of them are very similar in their location, and it's obvious that Tel Aviv University program is better and cheaper and more prestigious. And I thought that maybe that would indicate that people that rank the Tel Aviv Jaffa College above Tel Aviv University are maybe misrepresenting their preferences, hoping maybe to maybe I don't know, maybe they hope to get a better location or whatever. But then, and I saw that there are a lot of people that do that. But after talking a bit with people, I understood that there is actually a big difference that they didn't take into account, which is that Tel Aviv University at that time mandated submitting a thesis at the end of their MA, and the college did not, okay? The Tel Aviv Jaffa College did not. So it's very difficult to understand how people make, those preferences. So, okay, going back, the second way that people approach that question is that they did lab experiments. They invited, students or whatever people to the lab. They endowed them with preferences. They told them, if you'll get matched with that thing, school, program, whatever, we will give you $20. If you'll be matched with that, we'll give you $15, and so on. And now let's play different acceptance, and now we know that the options don't mean anything except their monetary value. And people do misrepresent their preferences, okay? Quite a lot. But quite a lot meaning like 20% on average, okay? But that doesn't really yet indicate that they would do that in a life-changing decision that is not between $20 and $50 and not where they suspect that somebody might be trying to, look at their decisions and make something out of it. So maybe in real life it's not like that.
There's pretty good evidence in Boston School
Mm-hmm.
mentioning that families, particularly low-income families, who may not have studied deferred acceptance carefully, mistakenly try to game the system.
I don't know that evidence, but I would.
It was one of the motivations behind the Unitas paper.
So I need to ask him. I think that's strange because then I take small piece information about matching for me, but then no, I'm kidding. But definitely there was such an issue before they switched to deferred acceptance. That one is well known, right?
Well, it's because of that. People knew that the old system was manipulable.
Right.
They didn't trust that the new system was not
Right.
manipulable.
I would
They were
think,
told that it was not manipulable, but they didn't believe that.
so I need to talk with Vanai, but I would guess that some of it is like suggestive evidence and not actual data, because it would be difficult to show that in data. I mean, because, for example, people from low socioeconomic class may really prefer worse schools, right? It's difficult to know.
Check with you.
But I will check.
Yeah.
I will check. I think. So the definitive evidence I think that people make those misrepresentations actually came from the psychology market eventually, from the Israeli psychology market, and that was when we saw that people are ranking. So we have a slightly more elaborate kind of system in which you not only rank the program that you want to go to, but also, for example, financial terms in which you are matched. So you can get into Tel Aviv University clinical program with a full scholarship or with no scholarship, and you rank those two options. Turns out that a lot of people ranked, and it's the same program. It's just the question of whether and no obligations and no strings attached. Just the question if you are getting money into your bank account, yes or no. Okay, and nobody knows what you ranked. And still, a lot of people rank Tel Aviv University Clinical Psychology with no scholarship above Tel Aviv University with no scholarship with full scholarship. Okay, about 20%. That's
Sounds
many.
like an evidence.
Yeah. So that was good suggested evidence. After we published that, a lot of people went and did it in other places and saw that it actually holds in many other markets, including markets where scholarships are actually much more prevalent than our psychology market. So it's a cool paper. Okay.
It's people needing freedom and
So we also surveyed them. We don't believe surveys, but we did it anyway. And people say a lot of reasons for why they do it. And but I don't have the time to go into all those reasons and whether or not we think those are good reasons. But I will direct you. I think the best paper on that is Dreyfus, which is a student at Harvard, and Ori Hefetz and Matthew Rabin, who wrote a nice paper about how loss aversion may cause you to misrepresent your preferences. I think that's one of the best papers on that. Okay, customizability. So I want to use deferred acceptance in an actual market, okay, such as the Israeli psychology admissions market, and I need to do a few tweaks in order for it to be practical. Okay, so now I'm going back to practice. So, for example, applicants may only rank some of the programs, not all of them, right? I didn't mention that before, and programs may only rank some of the applicants, but that really doesn't matter for the deferred acceptance. If an applicant, suppose we're doing the applicant proposing deferred acceptance, and applicants only rank some of the program, so once they're rejected from all of those programs, they would just stop proposing. They would not propose to the programs that they do not want to get admitted into, okay? And still all the results on stability and everything follows through. If the proposed to side does not rank all of the applicants, that just means that if an applicants go into their front yard, they would reject them immediately, even if they do not have someone else that they prefer, okay? They would just not leave them in their yard, okay? And again, it would lead to the same results. Programs wish to admit more than one applicant, that's very easy. If we're doing the applicant proposing deferred acceptance, then you should just think that each yard has more places to camp in than just one camping place. Okay, they have 10 camping places, but the 11th person gets rejected. Okay? If we're doing the program proposing deferred acceptance, then instead of just going into one front yard, we'll go simultaneously into 10 front yards. Okay? And we'll camp simultaneously in all of those. Scholarships. Programs want to strategically use scholarship to attract students applicants. So I already talked about it because I said that that was actually something that the programs really wanted when we came to redesign this market. I don't know if I mentioned that we redesigned the market and did it and made it into the 27. It was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. We just came to them and said, your protocol is terrible. How about we build a matching system for you? That's the screenshot that you saw before. And that's still going on to this day. Actually, they start ranking in about a week again. And I'm still in charge of that somehow, not sure why. So what happens if programs want to actually use scholarship to attract applicants? So we let them the option of splitting the programs into a program with scholarship and without scholarship, and the applicants can rank both of those, and that way I can say that my first option is Bar Ilan with a scholarship, my second option is Tel Aviv with a scholarship, third option is Bar Ilan without a scholarship. Okay, so I might prefer to get a scholarship than to get into Bar Ilan. Okay, then to get into Bar Ilan. Yes.
That requires a set quota for scholarships, though,
A
right?
what?
That requires a set quota for scholarships, so you can't like
Right.
adaptively change.
No,
your
I can
scholarships.
play with it a bit. There are some things that I can do, but it's easiest to think about it as a set quota of scholarship. The important thing is not that the important thing here about the scholarships is that we are using them strategically. If someone does not come, we do. So the alternative option was to just do regular matching, but call some of the applicants and tell them, if you're coming, you'll get a scholarship, right? But if those people end up not coming, we wasted an opportunity to propose that scholarship to someone else who might have come if we propose them a scholarship. Okay, so the important thing here is to strategically use the scholarship. Affirmative action. So you have something specific in mind?
Well, if you want a diverse class.
So there is a difference between diverse class and affirmative action.
Well, the two are related. It depends how you do affirmative action, but
Right.
suppose that I have, I want red and blue people. I have too many. If I just look at grades, I'm going to have too many blue people.
Right.
So
Right. So you can do affirmative action in multiple ways, and you can think also about diversity in multiple ways, and it's not exactly the same, but it's very, I agree that it's tightly related. So what we did in the psychology match is we gave them two options. One of the options is we just save some of the seats for blue people. So all the blue people are prioritized in those seats. So we can still rank the applicants according to their merit, but also say those applicants are blue, those applicants are red, and and two seats are prioritizing blue applicants. Okay, if we have enough blue applicants, we'll fill them. And then there is also the question of whether a blue applicant first proposes to those seats or to the other seats, right? Because that's a different interpretation of the same affirmative, of the same structure, okay? There is also the question of, we can also save seats only for blue people, saying if there are blue people, they can get them, but they are not reverting to red people. There's also the question of what you do if you have people that have multiple properties that you want to promote, right? Maybe intersectionality. You have black women. You want to promote women, and you want to promote black people. So you save some seats for black people, some seats for women. And then what do you do when you get someone who belongs into those two categories? Okay, sorry that I just ignored your nicely
politically correct, blue and red.
politically correct blue and red, and I just but I'm going to do even worse than that. The thing that worked in that worked in our favor in the psychology match is that most departments wanted to promote either Arab students, because we don't have enough Arab clinical therapists in Israel, and ultra-Orthodox students. Because we
no intersection.
and luckily up until today there was no intersection, you know. Up until today there was no intersection between those two populations. So
Come to the program, maybe there will be.
yeah. There is also promoting people from Ethiopian origin. And there you might expect to find an Ethiopian ultra-Orthodox person, and we have something in our code that actually deals with that. I don't think there was anyone yet, but there could be. Okay. Now, other markets require other features. That's just a psychology market, but let me tell you a bit about other markets. In the national residency matching program in the US, there was a problem with dealing with couples, people that come into the market as a couple and want to be matched at least in a similar geographic location. Think about the US, not Israel. Okay, in Israel we don't have that much of a problem with geographic location, it's a small country, and also we don't have much of a problem with couples because they are just younger in the psychology match. And they actually, socialize with other people. So they don't necessarily mate among themselves as much as the medical doctors in the US, I guess. But there is a way to solve that as well. I'm not going to expand on that. School choice, when you do school choice using deferred acceptance, you get a lot of interesting things that you need to deal with. In particular, low quotas are very important because you want to assign students to school, but you don't want to open a school if it doesn't have enough students. So you need to deal with that somehow. And also ties, because students are not being interviewed. They usually belong to some priority class. For example, they live either close to the school or far from the school, but we cannot actually rank them according to geographic location or anything like that, okay? So usually there are a lot of ties between students, and you need to somehow break those ties if you want to do deferred acceptance, because deferred acceptance is defined for strict preferences. At least until now, that's how I define it. When we did the pre-military academies match with Noam and Yanai, and we had this group formation kind of problem, which is usually the diversity issue. And there was really a lot of things that we need to tweak in the deferred acceptance mechanism in order for that to work. It really became something that it's difficult to recognize as deferred acceptance, I think, or at least it's the largest deviation from deferred acceptance that I ever heard of, I think. It was very computer scientist also. We gave up on a lot of things. We gave up on the strategy proofness, we gave up on stability, we gave up on a lot of things. We only kept the basic structure of deferred acceptance. Law internships in Israel, we also did the matching for those, and there we had a different problem where we needed to match only some of the students each year. Only some of the people participated in the match. So we had maybe 10 or 20% of the market, okay, of the students in the market participating, and only the top firms, and we still need to output some matching that would stick. So how do you output matching that sticks if everybody can deviate with people that we do not match? That's a difficult problem. So it's a new work in progress, okay, on how to do it. I mean, we did it already. We did it practically, but now there is theoretical work on that. Okay, some frontiers for people who want to do research in market design and two-sided matching. So some of the frontiers are about more complex environments, matching with multiple priority categories, like I mentioned before, intersectionality, but not only intersectionality, it comes up a lot so a new application is vaccine allocation that came up 2 or 3 years ago. We need to allocate vaccines, and we have different categories of people, and there are a lot of interesting, there is interesting work by Tayfun Sonmez, who's working on, and others who are working on multiple priority categories in Indian government matching, and in Indian college admissions and others. And also there are new applications for matching with concept, which I didn't talk about and I don't have time to talk about, but for example, more complex college admissions, okay? College admissions that have other properties and not just which program you are being assigned. And another frontier is behavioral matching design, behavioral matching, which is a very active field of research, and Yanai, who presented here, is working on that. And surprisingly, if you want to see, I already mentioned that work, but if you want to see how computer science kind of works well with behavioral stuff, then you should definitely look for that paper by Anai and Ori and Clay, which really is, I mean, it just goes to show that computer science kind of tools can really boost what we do in behavioral economics. Okay. Okay, so that's an empty slide to see how much time more do I have, and I think I have 0 time, basically. I have 3 minutes, but 3 minutes I can do questions. I will not start anything new. So, are there any questions about?
This slide is 2 minutes before the end is perfect.
Okay, so empty slide is for asking how much time do I have, but now I'm going to move all the way here and say, see you again in 30 minutes.